And political parties battle to settle warring factions and put their houses in order less than 6 months to the 2023 elections. Hello and thanks for joining us on Standpoint. I am Precious Amayo. Now, with 18 days to the start of the political campaigns, all appears not well with some of the parties that will be going head-to-head in the presidential election. The People's Democratic Party has been in turmoil since the conduct of its presidential primary that produced Atiku Abubakar as its flag bearer. Now, efforts to resolve the crisis rocking the party have not yielded any results. Rather, the infighting keeps getting messier. For the ruling or governing All Progressives Congress, not all stakeholders are in agreement with the choice of the party to go for same-faith ticket. For the African Democratic Congress, the situation is even worse. The crisis rocking the ADC has eventually led to the suspension of its presidential candidate, Dumebi Kachuku, and there seems to be no end in sight to the infighting in the party. Now, the situation is not different in the new Nigeria's People's Party that recently lost a power broker in the person of Ibrahim Shekarau due to internal conflict, and others. Political observers are concerned that this crisis might take away from the ability of the parties to focus on selling their manifestos to Nigerians, which will adversely affect the outcome of the polls. Now, joining me in the studio is a political scientist. He's a research associate professor, Dr. Kayode Eswola, and he's a research associate professor, of African politics. I want to get that correctly. African politics with the University of Lagos. And also we have joining us via Zoom a member of the All Progressives Congress, Ayo Oyalowo. We're also expecting a PDP chieftain to join in the conversation as we look at the internal conflicts, if you call it that, within these political parties. But let me start with Dr. Eswola. I mean, when you look at this general situation in the political parties today, I mean, you've analyzed 4 of them. And that's not to say that, even the Labour Party is free. Even in Lagos, there is crisis within the Labour Party. And one of the, I think it's state chairman, who is also the candidate, saying that if they're not careful, it will affect the candidacy of Peter Obi. Now, so it looks like there seem to be crisis within most of the political parties. How do you characterize this situation?
There have always been crises. If we historicize party politics and palette politics in Nigeria, especially from the most recent part of the 60s, what you see is that early political parties were formed along ethnic and religious lines. I don't have to go into history, the Northern People's Congress, the Action Group, the NCNC. When they existed, they represented clans, they represented religions, they represented social orientations. Somehow, those parties managed to survive until the military took over. And then post-military in 1998-99, there was a transition into formation of national parties. So PDP emerged as a national party with a conglomeration of many of these actors who hitherto were ethnic and religious champions. That emergence continued for a while, for about 16 years, until the emergence of APC. The same thing came up, bringing together what many people have described as people of strange characters, strange identities together. And rather than just reduce it to that, it has been an attempt since 1999 to nationalize political party existence in Nigeria. And so, like any other thing that you form, you must have periods of experimentation. And those periods of experimentation must inevitably be, laden with crisis. That, in my view, explains the crisis we have in the political parties as at now. Some people would then say it is because we're just starting democracy. Our democracy is nascent. We're just developing. We cannot compare ourselves to those countries who have operated democracy for several years. It's also true, but the breakdown is what I've just given you. We are in a transition between, okay, local parties, ethnic parties, religious parties, and national parties. And that is why you have the crisis here and there. Other details exist, but fundamentally, that's the reason behind the crisis.
And it's not just in Nigeria where you see people move from one party to another. For example, the current Prime Minister of UK, Liz Truss, used to be a Liberal Democrat. Now she's a conservative, and she has said she will govern as a conservative. And that's someone who says, look, I am no longer a Liberal Democrat. I am now a conservative. I will govern that way. But here you find within these political parties, and this is why a lot of people, onlookers like me, tend to really wonder why within the party there is some sort of conflict, and then it becomes a situation of internal sabotage. So if you're running for office and I do not agree with you, I'm going to work against you. And one wonders what could be responsible for such a behavior when, if this is your political party, you should want to see that party win.
Three things you have put on the line here, why people move from one party to the other. The simple political behavioral reason behind that is that human beings will always have changed worldviews. They will always have changed orientations. Some 35 years ago, I had my thinking, my worldview about religion. Today, I have a new thinking, a new worldview about religion. Put that in politics. It explains why, generally speaking, people will be in political party A today and move to political party B tomorrow. So that example of Ukraine is taken care of by this explanation. However, politics is a local thing. It's not international, it's not general. So localizing it in the context of Nigeria, you have a different explanation. And that which bothered you is, perhaps it does bother you, is that why will you move out from a political party, or you have internal problem within that political party and you work against that person? The answer is simple. It is because the reason people go into politics in Nigeria is peculiar to the Nigerian socio-political system. And that reason, like you and I have seen in display in the society, is one, to get power for the sake of power. And power for its sake will then extend to power for the sake of power, for the sake of personal economic betterment, empowerment. Power to get power to deal with your opponent. And so it becomes what I call survivalist politicking within the parties. And where survival is at stake, desperation will come. And that explains, theoretically, what you see in the Nigerian situation. Perhaps in those other places you want to call sinner climes, perhaps they have national interest as the reason for going to politics. Perhaps not. But what we have seen in Nigeria to this extent is that people go into politics not for national reasons, but for the purpose of getting the power.
All right. So
what they want to use.
I wanted to establish that before we get into the issues within the political parties themselves. I wanted to also establish why all of this happened. And I want to bring in the APC member, Ayo Oyalowo, who is joining us via Zoom. We know that we've seen issues with most political parties going into the 2023 elections. It does seem as though there is some quiet in the APC, and some keen observers are saying that that's a smokescreen for what's actually happening within your party. And I just want to get your reaction on that.
Small screen for what exactly? That's funny. The fact that other people can't organize themselves does not mean the APC cannot organize itself. We have seen our presidential candidates have a meeting with the National Working Committee led by the National Chairman, and we have seen the amicable and cordiality, the amicable atmosphere, the cordiality with which they have treated each other. It shows that the APC in its entirety is showing clearly the way forward in terms of leadership as a political party. So there's no smoke screen anywhere because there's nothing to hide. The APC is working together as a decent political party, as a political party to show the way to others how things are done. We had a contest in the name of a primaries, and then the primaries are over. So for us, everybody has fallen in line so that we all work together to achieve a common goal and a common objective, which is to work for the candidates and every other candidate for the 2023 election. So we don't have any smoke screen anywhere. What we have clearly is a party that is matured, that is decent, and that is disciplined enough to face reality and do what should be done after a primaries have been held and a winner emerged. So we don't have any issue and we are not hiding anything. What you see is what you get with the APC.
I just want you to say clearly, because you almost sound as though you're saying categorically that everyone within your party has lined up behind your presidential candidate.
I said that immediately, yes. As soon as the contest was done and it's done with, there is no any other agenda than for everyone to work together and ensure we win the primaries. So yes, everybody within the APC is lining up right behind our candidate and the national chairman so that we can work together and ensure that the general elections are won by the party. So we don't have any issue with hiding nothing. We have no issue. There are no infighting. Everything is being handled maturely with political correctness, the way it should be done.
And what about calls earlier that the national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, should resign? Are you saying that those calls were not valid calls within your party, or that they were mischief makers?
We don't know who are the people making those calls. The call did not emerge from any serious member of the party, neither is it coming from the candidate. So, you see, the truth is we like to infer when there's really nothing to infer. We like to draw necessary inference. The fact that other parties are having problems, everybody just assumes we too should have a problem, but we don't have any problem. So how do people want to manufacture problem for us? The party is in sync with each other. Everybody is working together. So we have no issue. If others have issue, they should deal with it however they wish. We don't have any problem as a party.
All right, let me get Dr. Esola to react to this. He has said, you have said categorically, APC doesn't have an issue. At some point, we were hearing reports about calls for the national chairman to be removed, especially because of the role he played during the presidential primaries. But he said that that call is not being made by serious members of the party, whether they are members or not, but they are not serious. And I just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, maybe I should start by congratulating APC for having a very good quiet, as you describe it, and for not appearing to the public as having serious problem. Nobody's going to manufacture problems for them. The way I would put it is that perhaps APC has been more mature in resolving the internal crisis. To come out and say this is a party without internal crisis where everybody queues behind one person is to say politics is not what it is. Politics is a game of interest. And interest means what is there for me. Okay? There must essentially be agitations and counter-agitations within the party. So maybe, one, by virtue of better public relations management, or two, by virtue of actions of the leadership of the party, maybe, I'm not a politician, there's no way I can know, I'm only doing analysis. Maybe APC has been able to manage all those inevitable internal conflicts much better than the other parties whose cases are in town. So that being said, we can only congratulate the party as of now.
Isn't it too early to be congratulating the party?
That's what I wanted to add. That, and then watch out that this is not the time to judge. Some 2 months, 3 months before elections, if we historicize party politics in Nigeria, wonders happen. Cross-carpetings happen. Many people will come out and do many things that will change the political permutation. So, if the APC is lucky so far not to have it, then it should have the caution not to push its luck too far by watching those internal, contradictions, by knowing that they are there, and of course, continuing to strategize to ensure that they don't manifest into crisis. No party runs as smooth as my good brother here has portrayed it.
All right, let me take this back to Ayo. You've talked about the issues around the national chairman, and to an extent, I think that Nigerians have been watching in terms of the relationship going forward between the national chairman and the presidential candidate. We've seen them make courtesy visits to states together, and it looks like they have resolved that difference, their differences, especially prior to the presidential primaries. But one cannot say the same thing for the presidential aspirants, because most of them have been really quiet going into the campaign season. We've not heard anything from them. One would have imagined that by now they would be acting as surrogates speaking on behalf of the presidential candidate. None of them have spoken. We also got report that there was a meeting that was called, I think, by the presidential candidate and to the former presidential aspirant, and none of them showed up for that meeting. I want you to clarify exactly what's going on and if such a meeting was actually called.
Okay, thank you. I forgot your name, but it seems you really want to see that there is an issue in the APC, because the way you are hammering on issue, it's funny. We know that there is no campaign yet until September 28th. So why should anybody be campaigning when the official umpire, that is INEC, has not said you can go on and campaign? So the fact that aspirants are not campaigning is not an issue. You remember, I think it was just yesterday or 2 days ago, the governor of Kogi State, one of the leading aspirants then, made a few very cognizant statements talking about the fact that he will support the candidate. And you remember he also donated his campaign office to the candidate of the APC. So also a few other aspirants. The fact that they are not jumping around does not mean they are not in sync with the candidate. So please, let's stop trying to look for problem when there is no problem. We don't have any problem, like I said earlier. That's number one. Then number two, the meeting you talked about, we all of us had it in the press. Till now, we still don't know where that meeting is coming from. I am sure you know that as soon as the contest was over, the candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, met with every one of the aspirants. I'm sure you remember that. And the things that were discussed are not for the television camera. But they are doing what they need to do. If there is crisis or if there are crises, you will know. These things cannot be hidden. And if one or two people are not happy, you will always, like the gentleman in the studio said, it's a game of interest. If people feel their interests are not being taken care of, probably they will have issues. But that does not necessarily mean that we must have a crisis the way party A and B, I don't want to call any party, but we don't have to have a similar crisis like they are having. Because whatever crisis they have, in fact, a particular party had even gone ahead to suspend his presidential candidate. So those are issues. We don't have any of those kind of issues. While the other ones, they are fighting for who will step down, whether the chairman or the board, they are having all manner of crises. We don't have any of such things. And as for the aspirants being on board, you will see when the campaign council people in the council, when the names are released, and you will see when the campaign officially kicks off. You will know who is on board and who is not. So let's not try to preempt any crisis when there is none, actually.
So it is not my job to manufacture issues within party. If there are reports, we give people the platform to come and clarify those issues, and that's exactly what we're asking you to do today.
And I have told you categorically
clarify,
that...
and you are doing exactly that, clarifying those issues. Let me come back to you, Dr. Eswola, just to react to what he has said, in terms of, because unlike what we're seeing in the PDP, where Wike is quite vocal about issues in his party, every other day we hear something from Wike, and he says that there have been agreements, but that those agreements have not been followed through. But when you also look at the flip side to the APC, we've not really had that kind of drama, as it were, in the APC. Is the silence a good thing for PDP? And does it, APC rather, and does it show that, look, all the issues around the primaries have been put behind, and they're moving into the campaign as a united force compared to what we're seeing in the PDP?
Well, you cannot know a show's mother more than a show. You are not a politician. You're a journalist. I am not a politician. I'm a journalist. The man at the center of it has said that the party has no crisis whatsoever, fallout of the primaries. We choose to believe him because he is the expert from that opinion. I mean, Yorubas have a proverb. They say, "Talara balara oro." What else can the other person say? I'm sorry that interprets that if you, as the owner of your body, say you have no pain, the third person or third party cannot say that you have pain. Okay? That being said, I think I implied it in what I said before, that there must be a sound of warning to APC that the silence does not appear quite natural. And I think that what is happening in PDP gives concerns to members of the party who love the party. But it is better it happens now, and from a very vocal person like Wike, and get addressed early enough before the deadlines, than for people to be silent now, and then only 1 month or 2 months before election, they get into crisis. Again, there's no way we can know if something is going on with it, especially when the man says there's nothing going on. We cannot manufacture and impose upon them. But analytically speaking, I put it on the table that the silence in APC does not appear politically natural. Something must be going on. And I said, objectively, whether there is good public relations on the part of the party, whether the leaders of the party have, very skillful internal crisis management, whether those who are aggrieved are waiting for the right time to manifest, we cannot know. These are speculations, but the man said there's no crisis. But if there will be crisis, analytically speaking, it's always better for the crisis to come early and get agitated about and get resolved than crisis coming at the latter part when campaigns are very close, when elections are very close. We can only wish APC the best.
All right, so I'm sure we can say the same for the PDP. Let's bring in Catch Ononuju, who is also joining us via Zoom. Catch, it does seem as though he's a PDP chieftain. It does seem as though the issues within your party seem to be getting, I don't want to use the word worse, but that's what it seems like. We're seeing now that the NEC, which is the National Executive Committee of your party, has now passed a vote of confidence on the national chairman, and Wike says that's not acceptable, that it has to go to balance and for balance and equity within your party. I just wanted to speak on that.
Thanks for asking that question. There was no vote of confidence. Vote of confidence occurs when you do accreditation and then you have NEC members vote. Not when you come in with all the PAs, security men, cameramen, and they are still there. Confidence. And before you knew it, everybody say, yeah. That's not how it's done. Vote of confidence is done in a NEC meeting after accreditation. Newsmen have left. Dignitaries to the hall have left the hall. That's when you conduct a vote of confidence. So the fact that they have rushed to try to do this really doesn't hold water. We are simply asking to be included. Since this is a representative democracy, we ask that positions be so done that those that we represent will see that those who represent them are included in the scheme of things. I agree. Most of us in the South have been outplayed by our friends and brothers from the North. But now, seeing that the Northerners have an agenda, what we must do is cut our losses and then come together and see how we can salvage it. A lot of people today in Nigerian politics are simply playing a game of gaining personal advantage, forgetting that it is a representative democracy where you represent the interests of the populations in the North South who vote for you. How would we now be able to go back to those who we claim to represent to say, vote for this party, when they themselves can see that this party have underhands that undermines the interests of them as they send us forth to represent them? It's a very difficult issue. And you see,
Mr. Ononuju, I just want to, because I want to jump in here because you've been saying we just want to be included. You've also talked about the northern. You used the word the northern caucus. It almost sounds as though your party has now been split into northern and southern caucus. Is that what it is now?
It has always been that way. Nigeria runs a representative democracy. It is not a democracy done by a band of men interested in state capture. No, it is a representative democracy. That is why even when we do compose executives, it's representative of the different sections and geographies of the country. So if
I seem to be we're having network challenge there.
Have a chairman from the north